Hey guys, so this is a video about a social media exchange I had with some atheists in the last couple of days. I saw someone posted this meme. Uh, it's a quote from Victor Stenger, apparently. I haven't read his book, and so I could be missing context from the quote. But on its face, it strikes me as extremely absurd. I put as much in a comment, and I really triggered a firestorm. A lot of atheists got upset by my comment. So let's talk about it. The meme reads, "I don't know if faith can move mountains, but it sure can destroy a building." Of course, it's a reference to 9/11. It was probably written shortly after that. And my reply was to point out they use science to do that too. This meme is ignorant on so many levels. It's both a stupid point and self-contradictory. Anything done in the wrong way is harmful. That includes both science and religion. Religion also pulls people out of depression and causes them to give in charity. So the point of that last sentence is to point out the fact that many people are actually benefited from religion, and I'm convinced at least, and this has been debated too, that religion in general is overall a good thing in society. When we remove it, it leaves a gaping hole of culture, which is probably not going to be filled by things that are better. And at least that's what we've seen with the recent decline in Christianity in the West. We've seen a rise of ideologies which are not great for mental health and not that rational. And there's a lot of anecdotal quotes from people who work in the mental health field that point out, I think I've got a couple of those quotes here. The fact that having a religious faith is good for you is psychiatry's best kept secret. Andrew Sims, former president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, described the positive effect of religious faith on mental health as psychiatry's best kept secret. There's other quotes too. Like I said, I'm just making a quick video. I don't have a lot of time for making videos lately, and I just want to get something up, so I'm not going to put a lot of homework into this. Yeah, so it's good for you. There's benefits to religion. So yeah, back to my comment. So the first thing I said in my comment is I don't know if it's both ignorant and contradictory. So ignorant in the sense that it ignores the fact that there's actually a lot of good things that come from religion. Sure, there's a few religious extremists, but there's, the whole point of my comment is to say we should actually get granular and focus on the specific details of an ideology that make it harmful, rather than just say science good, religion bad. The way it's contradictory is like, I'm talking about science as a tool and religion as a thing that has effects on people. Now, we can kind of categorize these in the same way because, religious faith can be beneficial, can be harmful, depending on various other factors, the culture which it's nested within, the particular theology or philosophy that surrounds that, practices, what's rewarded by the society that's built around the religion, and so on. And similarly with science, it's basically a tool that amplifies whatever a person wants to do with that tool. So someone can use science to blow up buildings, or they can use it to feed starving people, or increase the nutrition rates in children by better farming techniques, better knowledge about nutrition. There's so many examples you could give of ways science can be beneficial or harmful depending on how it's being wielded. So yeah, the same thing is true for science as is true for religion. Religion can benefit people or harm them depending on various other factors. Now, of course, some people might want to nitpick on the use of the word religion and say, oh, there's something that's actually divinely inspired religious practices, and that's never harmful. I'm just using religion in the sense of like a category of, that includes all of the perversions that might have to that are actually harmful. So then, the section went on, and I was describing atheism's an ideology. Theism is an ideology. And if we, think of two buckets of, worldviews that include theism, worldviews that include atheism, and sorted all the worldviews that are in existence into one of those two buckets, we will find that someone being a theist or an atheist doesn't automatically mean they have a better or worse worldview, because, you can have mental, religion-induced mental illness. But, one way that might play out is you join a religion, the religion has very high standards. You try to follow those high standards exactingly. You fall short of following those high standards, and you suffer as a result, like a kind of OCD. And then the ego trauma that comes from not being as good as you told yourself you needed to be. So that can happen. And, communism was atheistic and it killed tens of millions of people. So what the atheist wants to do here, and objecting to the point I was making, is say it wasn't atheism that killed all those people under communism. It was various other granular details that we need to hone in on. And the thing that I just could not understand in my exchanges in those comment sections with these atheists is I was actually making the exact same point as them. And when I made that point, they got upset and objected. And in objecting to me, they were just making my own point right back at me. So obviously I wasn't wording it very well. Otherwise they would have understood what I was saying. But I do think that some of these atheists might have some kind of PTSD from arguing with Christians on the internet, or religious people in general. I'm not picking on Christians. And so they were projecting on me things that I wasn't actually saying. So, often people will say, oh, atheism's worse, atheism, when people become atheists, they believe worse things and they do worse things. That wasn't actually what I was doing. I was just saying someone being an atheist or a theist actually tells us so little about the person or the worldview, like a worldview having theism or atheism tells us so little about it, that it's not a useful distinction in terms of the reason I make this point, because some theists might be thinking, what are you on about? It is better if people are religious versus atheist. The reason I make this point is because atheist activists think they're going to make the world a better place by creating more atheists. So they think if they go around shouting Sky Daddy in comment section, arguing with theists, using reason and science and logic to reason people out of their faith, every time they do that successfully and make another atheist, they think they're contributing to the world becoming a better place. Now, why they think that is maybe because they've seen a mother give their child homeopathics instead of taking them to an allopathic doctor, and maybe the child has suffered more than they would if they had just gone to an allopathic doctor who maybe could have just given them antibiotics or an asthma inhaler or something and help them dramatically. And there's obviously cases where stuff like that happens. I'm not saying religious beliefs are never harmful. I'm just explaining what I think is motivating atheist activists. So they have this idea that someone becoming an atheist is automatically a better thing. And then when I say, if we sort worldviews or belief systems into whether they include atheism or not, we find there's harmful and beneficial worldviews in both categories. They say, no, you can't sort things by those categories. You can't put all the worldviews that aren't theistic into one category because they have so little in common. They're not united under one banner. It's not one thing, all the worldviews that are not theistic. And I get their point. I'm not trying to say that all atheists are the same and they all have a bunch of things in common. I'm not doing that at all. I'm actually agreeing with them and saying that they're also different. So much so that making more atheists does not mean you're making the world a better place. That's my whole point here. And it was very hard to get that across to them. So hopefully I'm communicating this clearly right now in my video. I'm much more articulate in a verbal context than in a written context. So I'm not so interested in going around and pulling out comments. Sweet Nathan is the atheist on Facebook. That's what he's called on Facebook anyway. I don't know if that's his real name. Maybe his name's Nathan and Sweet Nathan is his moniker that he uses. Yeah, he's just upset that I was trying to say atheism is an ideology. So yeah, this is the other funny back and forth I had with them. So, a few of them were saying atheism is an ideology. I'm like, okay, well, the word does pick out a category, right? So if it's not a category of ideologies, it could be a category of beliefs, it could be a category of people. I'm not trying to tell the atheists out there how they should define the word atheist. You can define words however you want, and then we take that definition and see what using that definition, when we apply logic to it, when we look at the categories that are created by that definition, we see what we can do with that. So if they want to say the word atheism doesn't pick out a category, then they're basically rendering the word meaningless. The problem of if the word is meaningless, we all know the word has a meaning, and it refers to people, they want to say it just refers to people who lack a belief in God. These days, people want to say that's maybe apatheism or lack theism. I don't bother about arguing about definitions. Let's just say it means someone who lacks a belief in God. There's still a category of people who lack a belief in God, and there's various things we can know about those people. For example, the chances are they don't believe in an afterlife. Now, they still could, but they probably don't. We know they don't believe. They also probably believe in scientific naturalism, or physicalism, the idea that reality is at bottom just governed by natural process. It's mechanistic, is how I describe it, compared to a theist who is likely to believe that reality is at bottom intentional. And then you also get the middle ground where it's, what do they call it? Physicalist, non-dual. Anyway, there's another view which is in the middle, which is reality is at bottom, both intentional and physical. I think mind comes first, intentionality. I think most theists think that. And I think most atheists think that reality is at bottom mechanistic. So these are distinctions we can know about a person based on them being an atheist or not. And those have major ramifications for a person's worldview. If you think there is a powerful being out there behind reality who sits in your heart, is behind everything, who's causing serendipity in your life, serendipitous things to happen in your life, who, if you just act in a moral way, if you work to better yourself and help other people, that God's watching you do that and he will pick up the slack. And, Bhagavad Gita says, don't worry, take shelter of me, I'll preserve what you have and carry what you lack. And this is the kind of peace that comes from this idea that there's someone out there who's my friend, who has my back, who loves me, and is all powerful. It's not just like Joe Blogs down the road who cares about me. It's God who can actually pull strings at the highest level of reality. That has a major effect on your worldview compared to if you don't believe that and you just think that, as Richard Dawkins put it, that there's just cold, bitter indifference at the bottom. And if you think that at the end of this life, it's all over. There's differences that are there that are relevant. Now, not everyone's going to respond to that in the same way, but it is a major difference. It's not nothing. But I wasn't even looking at putting atheism and theism in two categories as a way of looking at, what we can know about these buckets in terms of, wanting to say what I just said. I just wanted to say someone becoming an atheist isn't automatically a good thing. Someone becoming a theist isn't automatically a bad thing. And that's what I'm trying to convince the atheist activist of. And what I think we should instead do, and instead of railing against religion and say faith is stupid, science is good, I think what we should do is pick out these specific beliefs that are harmful, and we should do the same for atheistic ideas. So we should just pick out bad ideas and challenge those. And if somebody believes in God or not, it's not that big of a deal. There's good people who are atheists, there's good people who are theists, and they go out there and do good things in the world. But for example, I think that believing, like on the atheistic side, I think one bad idea is the fact that by manipulating reality, that I think if we try to tinker with reality too much, we will probably make things worse. And I think people out there who think, communism, we're going to totally reinvent the wheel of the economy and we're going to engineer a society that has no suffering. Every time somebody has tried to really buck the trend of how reality functions at a deep level, they've basically they're trying to create a utopia which doesn't exist in the material world. When people try to do that and try very hard to do that, every single time they've done that, they've created a far worse situation. That they basically, attempts to create a utopia, if tried hard enough, always create a dystopia. It's happened every single time. So I think that's one bad idea that happens on atheism, whereas on theism, you're more likely to think God has a plan, God's made things in a certain way, and we need to work within that plan. Obviously, we do try to change things. If we see suffering children, we feed them. But there's a limit to how far we go in trying to change things. So we don't go far enough in trying to change things that we end up making things worse. Again, not every theist thinks like that either. I'm just giving general ideas. An example of a bad idea on theism, I gave that example of a mother not giving her child appropriate medicine because of some belief in homeopathy, which is perhaps fueled by some theology that she's subscribed to. The main example I like to give of what I think atheist activists should be honing in on in religion is I think when a theist believes God is evil, they are more likely to do bad things. Now, you're not going to get these theists who think God's evil to admit that they think God's evil, but it's a case of going through the entailments of their beliefs. So I was talking in another video about atonement theories and how some of these Christian ideas that God has to punish somebody for the sins, so he punishes Jiva and all this wrath of God. I think some of that stuff amounts to thinking God's evil, and that could explain some religious violence in the world. So the most extreme cases is thinking only members of my own religion are saved. Anyone who's preaching a different religion is leading people away from God. If they don't join my religion, instead join that religion, they're going to go to hell for all eternity. And this kind of logic can and has in the past caused people to go around murdering members of other religions, and especially murdering preachers of other religions. And this is objectively a bad thing. You know, anyone who's at all cultured understand that's bad, other than, you know, the most deluded of religious extremists. But I think there's more subtle levels of thinking that. But I think really when we're talking about the harm that's done by religion, we're talking about specific things like that, specific beliefs that we can go on after, pick out these specific bad ideas and target them, because I think religion is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But what we can do is try to improve the quality of religion that is here and reduce the amount of bad ideas pervading in religion and bad theologies that are being followed. So I think I will wrap it up there. This is a new, more casual video style for me, an attempt to just get some content up while I'm extremely busy. So please give me some encouragement in the comments. Let me know what you think, and maybe I'll keep making more of these. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I appreciate the view, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hare Krishna.